Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. Nice to see you all here. Sorry for keeping you wait, but eating took longer than I expected, as always. And also writing messages and stuff also took quite some time. First of all, thank you and huge shoutouts to, of course, Birchman for raiding me here. I hope you had a good stream and a good time on your screen. Also, PVT Kill Switch is just coming out of nowhere. More streaming, less eating. Yeah, that's... Unfortunately, if the streamer is hungry, then I think the stream quality goes down. That's at least my theory. So I have to eat at times. I also like eating, to be fair. But yeah, thank you, much appreciate Killswitch and Birchman. Shoutouts to you both. Thank you for the for your sub, man. Much appreciated, and for the raid and all the other supports things you people do. Always nice. And yeah, I read already in the title. 5 hours ago, Phil Spencer. Maybe I should also proper welcome everyone. But yeah, welcome to the stream. Today we will discuss what we see here on the screen. That 5 hours ago, Phil Spencer tweeted, "We are pleased to announce that Microsoft and PlayStation have signed a binding agreement to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation following the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. We look forward to a future where players globally have more choice to play their favorite games." It's an interesting news. As always, it's for denying you your YouTube income by the means of adblock. It's much appreciated. And of course, a sub here so makes up for that greatly. So much appreciated. You'll switch. But yeah, it's an interesting news because it's kind of, we heard at the previous days that there was an agreement with multiple other antitrust organizations. That it seems it's pretty clear that this Activision Blizzard purchase by Microsoft or the acquisition goes through. That was already meant. I did not meant to click on this. Maybe we like the tweet because I think that's a good news in of itself. Simply because it's always great when there are not too many titles exclusive. But I thought it's maybe a good opportunity to make this here a small section of the stream where we discuss this news for a moment. Maybe I also upload this here by other means or so. I'm not 100% sure yet how I will do this. But yeah, this is kind of interesting. I'm still not sure if the acquisition of Activision Blizzard is a good thing. I think it makes a lot of sense from the perspective of Microsoft. And maybe some people who are around here for much longer, from the time I still made gaming content on my main channel, which is currently on the second channel. Speaking of, there's also a new video about Cyberpunk, about the path tracing mode. In case you haven't seen it, it's here. I hope the bot works, probably not. Okay, for whatever reason the command does not work. As always, it's the effect. But when I did a video called Quo Vadis Microsoft, I think I call it. That is from... I called it The Strange Ways of Microsoft, the Xbox One and their new game studios. That is from... Let me just look up when I made this video. I'm very curious about this myself. Of course, it's not shown here, so I have to open it. I made this video 4 years ago, 2018. Yeah, 2018 on the channel. Maybe I can also link it here in the description really quick. And it was a time where Microsoft was, or after, like the Xbox One era of Microsoft was kind of weird in a lot of different ways because Microsoft had almost, like they closed a lot of studios, they were not acquiring many. It felt like Microsoft is actually leaving the gaming space. Like the Xbox One was such a big disaster for Microsoft, considering how much they gained in the era of the Xbox 360. And this era felt like, the last gen era felt like, okay, Microsoft is really losing it slowly. And only in the last few years, Microsoft then started to acquire more and more studios. And that was to be expected because PlayStation was just dominating quite a bit in the market. And as a result, PlayStation got a huge lead. They got several, and this went on for a lot of years. They developed their own studios and also acquired some studios over the time. And this led to them having multiple big AAA studios that can produce stuff like, look at Uncharted, The Last of Us with Naughty Dog. Look at what the Spider-Man people do. They have their Japanese studios with their more experimental stuff, like The Last Guardian, for example, though we haven't heard of them for some time. I think they got restructured, let's call it that way. The whole Japanese section was kind of changed, if I remember correctly. It was previously Team Ico, then it was Sony Entertainment Japan or something like this. I forgot how the studio was called. And I think this was further restructured afterwards, but I forgot how it is exactly. Still, they have studios like this there. And I don't know, did I forget big Sony titles? The people who made, what was the game called? Killzone, right? Was it the Killzone series? Yeah. The Killzone series, they made then Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West, I think was the last title they made. There's just a lot of... Let me just get my second screen on so I can do stuff here without you not seeing the image here anymore. They have the studio that made Days Gone. I'm not sure if we know what they made or what they are currently doing. Probably have to look this up because I forgot. Let me just look this up really quick because that's interesting. That is a Bend studio. I'm not sure. Yeah, they made... The Bend Studios, by the way, the studio who originally made the Siphon Filter games, for example, on PlayStation 1, if you remember those. They also made Bubsy 3D. And it is not currently announced what their next project is. Days Gone was received okayish, I would say, especially for Sony's AAA standards. It was maybe a bit... how to say... not received well enough and potentially didn't sell well enough, but it's still interesting to see that they have studios like this. They have the Gran Turismo series and of course the God of War people. Then we have Sucker Punch with Ghost of Tsushima. I'm not sure if they announced what they are currently working on. So you see, they are just these are all first-party titles, and that is, in my opinion, really impressive. What Sony managed to build there over these many years. I think we also don't know what the Ghost of Tsushima people are currently working on. And I forgot like a whole bunch of big studios. Maybe somebody in chat has some ideas of stuff I might have forgotten. Here's a maybe potential list that helps us a little bit. What is this? No, this is a complete list. Okay, that doesn't help us at all. 2013. Oh god. I don't know. It's just too many games. Sony has just so many stuff in development and so on and so forth. It is really impressive. And currently, it feels a bit like Sony went a little bit out of steam. I feel like they don't have that many releases. Of course, a new Spider-Man is coming up, so there's still stuff there for coming out for Sony, but I felt always like Microsoft after the Xbox era, they never really competed with this amount of output that Sony potentially can have, and this led to the step that we see here described, that Microsoft has to buy studios to make up for this because they are under-equipped when it comes for studios. And here, Microsoft can do something that basically very few companies on this planet can do. They can just put out, I don't know how expensive it was, like 60 something billion dollars and buy Activision Blizzard. And then they also pump out like, I think it was 8 or 7, 8 billion and buy Bethesda. And not many studios can do this. It is kind of, it's kind of interesting that they can use all their market power on the market to pump out, or to just buy publishers. It's not just a single game development studio like Sucker Punch. We are talking about a publisher that also has, I don't know how many employees Activision Blizzard has. That's actually a good question. Activision Blizzard's their list of employees. They have 17,000 employees. Compare this to, I don't know, I mentioned Sucker Punch a moment. They have 160 in 2020. So just that you get the idea what kind of company, like how big this deal is. This is massive. And I assume this is also so massive that it is a matter for antitrust organs in different countries. I would have kind of wished that they would be a little bit more strict when it comes to video game to this deal, because I think it is really a big deal. Just considering how many IPs and big IPs are under the umbrella of Activision Blizzards. We have, I think, Candy Crush. Is this the name of the game? I'm not playing, you just noticed I'm not playing stuff on my it's developed by King. Let me see. Yeah, this the company behind this game is yeah, Candy Crush Saga and so on. It's a huge mobile thing. I'm not sure how much money they make, but the company is called King. And they're also part of Activision Blizzard. And they have also 2,000 employees and just make mobile games. Yeah, it's really impressive. And Activision itself has like a lot of big names under their belt as well. For example, Call of Duty. And just to think of it, what this encompasses. I think they have Ravensoft, which is more like a little studio that helps other studios making their games or making good ports. Remember the Jedi Knight 2, for example, was made by Ravensoft, though they don't have the Jedi Knight license. What else do we have? We have Neversoft, I think, is part of it. I'm not sure what they did. Or they just made some Call of Duty things as well. They made Ghost, Advanced Warfare. They made some Guitar Hero stuff quite a bit. They made some of the Tony Hawk games as well. By the way, Tony Hawk, I think, is also Activision Blizzard, right? So, yeah. Then we have Triarch and Infinity Ward. Both are the Call of Duty companies. We have Grey Matter Studios. That is... I'm not sure what they actually do. It seems like they're also like a company that helps out, like doing supporting stuff. It's a very small one. Red Octane. Toys for Bob is the name I definitely remember. What was Toys for Bob? 180 employees, so it's a relatively speaking, big studio. Are these? They made the Skylanders games, Crash Bandicoot, and it seems like they also are supporting Call of Duty development stuff. But it's still also a relatively big company if you think about this. Red Octane? What did these guys do? Seems also like more supporting studio. They did some Guitar Hero stuff and so on. So all this stuff, like it's a massive company, and this is without Blizzard. And Blizzard has some of the most valuable IPs, I guess, on this planet. With, I mean, World of Warcraft definitely big. We now have or had a huge hype seeing with Diablo 4. We had a huge we have also like the strategy classic games, StarCraft and the Warcraft strategy games. Even though RTS games are currently not trending at all, and basically all the companies trying to do strategy games for the main market failed, and I think only Blizzard can kind of do this. But there was an interesting other deleted, I wouldn't call it a leak, but some journalist who has leaked stuff in the past wrote something like, will there be StarCraft 3? And he said yes. And then he deleted his tweet again and said, well, let's say the StarCraft IP isn't dead. And it seems like Activision Blizzard, why shouldn't they? They have a big IP, why shouldn't they use it, right? And now with Microsoft, who is in desperate need of video games, I would definitely argue that I could imagine that a new StarCraft in some form, it could also be a revival of StarCraft Ghost, it was like a shooter in the StarCraft universe or so, could be revived. I could imagine now anything goes, because Microsoft has the money, as they have shown. They just can throw 70, 80 billions at buying publishers, and it's no problem for them, because it's a massive, valuable, it's one of the 10 biggest companies on this planet. And that is a reason why they can do this. Sony, I think, would not be able to do such a big merger just for PlayStation. That I think would be very difficult to do for Sony. So that definitely shows a unique situation for Microsoft. From their perspective, of course, this makes complete sense, because, as said, after the development in the past from the Xbox One era, they definitely lost. Like, think about the Fable studio. Was, I think, closed back in the day. Lionhead, Peter Molyneux's studio that was closed. That was, I think, the Fable studio, actually. But of course, we get not the video game Fable. Not sure what the last Fable game was. Was it Fable 3? Lionhead Studios made this. So yeah, Peter Molyneux studio, that got closed, and so on. And there was some other cases, like they didn't do anything with their market power on PC. Like if we go to the Steam survey right now, let me just see survey. What's the difference between those two links? I don't get it, but I'll take it. Steam survey. Whoops. Go to the Steam survey real quick and look at the OS distribution. 96.77% of gamers use a Windows system, so Microsoft OS. Only 1.7 use a Mac system, OS X, and only 1.4 use Linux. That's it. You see how big the Microsoft market share just in this area is. And it's kind of weird that they never tried to establish a gaming platform. All gamers use DirectX, which is like an API for gaming that is used by basically every game these days. So they have a huge strategic advantage on PCs. They never did something. Did anybody in chat use ever the Xbox app or game launcher on Windows, or the Microsoft Store on Windows? It feels like it was done by people who have never used a computer in their whole life. And it's just amazing that they work for the biggest one of the biggest software companies, if not the biggest on this planet. It's just mind-boggling at times. It's so bad, it's not even funny anymore. It's just next level bad. I've never seen software this bad. They improved it a little bit a few years ago, but go back to 2000, let's say 17, and look how this thing worked. And the word trash is an understatement for this, for the previous stuff. It's just mind-bogglingly bad. And they never did something with their market power, like with this particular stat here, having like 99, you could argue, of course, not all gamers are on Steam and play there, but it definitely shows that it definitely shows that their market share on PC is just insanely high among PC gamers, and a lot of PC gamers are on Steam. Steam is like still the platform to play video games on PC. Of course, there's also Blizzard's app, which is now part, interestingly, of Microsoft. So it's kind of funny in this regard. And I assume Microsoft would be smart to use this, utilize that a bit more, because I think the Blizzard app is actually kind of okay. Maybe they tried with games for Xbox Live. Yeah, games for Xbox Live. I literally forgot that this oh god, this Windows thing. Dark Souls 1, the first one, was tied to that. Oh boy, was it bad. Ooh. But yeah, they tried and they kind of failed. They definitely tried, but it is just absolutely terrible. But it's also interesting to see that people slowly adopting Windows 11. I currently also run Windows 11 because my Windows 10 at some point decided to do weird stuff in the taskbar. And so I said, yeah, well, I could just, I don't know, tries to find things in the regedit and fix it somehow, or I just install Windows 11 for free. So I did that, and I have to say I kind of am happy with Windows 11 so far. Yeah, they stayed off to not get the backlash. Yeah, I mean it's really strange in my opinion. They had the potential. All they needed to do is, like in 2012 or so, they just download the Steam client and look how Steam is doing things, and then slowly do something similar. That's all they needed to do basically, but they decided to not do this. Well, on this side, I'm actually happy that they didn't do this, because it's always good to have different companies doing things that are not, and it's not that one company owns all other companies. And that is basically the only thing, for me, the biggest downside is that Activision Blizzard is so big, and now it's owned by Microsoft. For me as a PC player, it doesn't matter too much, because Microsoft is also delivering games still to PC. But beyond Call of Duty, which will also remain on other platforms like PlayStation, a lot of stuff will become Xbox exclusive, like quite a few games. Think of Starfield. Yeah, that's true. Also, games are still in the Microsoft store, but nobody buys it there because the store is just trash. I remember I wanted to buy over the Microsoft store Sea of Thieves when it came out 2017, and I did. And I kid you not, I'm not kidding, I couldn't install the game over the Microsoft store, even though I bought it legally there. And you know why I couldn't install it? Because I never did something before on the Microsoft store, and in this early iteration of this store, I think it was it already on Windows 10? I'm not sure. 2017 sounds like Windows 7 time, so it was maybe on, no, I can't remember time anymore when I installed Windows 10 for the first time. I think it was 10. Yeah, it was definitely Windows 10. However, yeah, it must have been Win 10. You are right. It's also on my, I just think about it was my my last computer, which is still standing here, but currently is not used. And I had never Windows 7 on that. I think there was no Microsoft Store on 7, yeah. It probably was. However, I couldn't install the game because I never did something with it. So I had to download a program so that the Microsoft Store would set certain application things. So I had downloaded an app on the Microsoft. I think I downloaded Minesweeper or something from the Microsoft Store. This the Microsoft Store could install, and then it created some files in the system that were needed. And only after that I could install Sea of Thieves. Then there was a free weekend for Sea of Thieves, and I wanted to test it with friends. And I'm not kidding, they had to do this. They had the same problem. And I could say, yeah, I know why you can't install it. You have to download Minesweeper or something. And only after that, Sea of Thieves will install. Like, this is on a commercially store that it's just, I'm still speechless about this. And then finding your friends and stuff on this Xbox companion Windows app thing. Oh god, it was just terrible. Like, it was definitely a terrible experience. It was not great. And that was just 2017 or 18 or something. So, I don't know, 4-5 years ago. Still a long time. I'm kind of surprised it is so long ago already, but it's still like it was not like, oh, Microsoft, this new player in the programming market. You never heard of them. It was like, yeah, they making software for like decades by now, and everybody's using their stuff and using their systems, but they're too stupid to program a simple store and other stuff. Whatever. Don't want to rant too much about Microsoft and PC and apps, but they also had this weird Universal Windows application, UWA, I think was the shortcut for it. So that there was like a package and it could only run inside this specific Microsoft package, but this package, it's called a package, was compatible also with Xbox and other Microsoft systems. So it was like universal, working on all the platforms. They did this with video games, and this had the problem that if you wanted to capture the video games, your my program, my OBS, could not hook into the thing. So I always had to do full screen capture if I wanted to record Sea of Thieves stuff. That was also annoying, I can tell you that. So only strange things. They, by the way, left this model, this idea, this model of doing this. It's still, I think, in parts it exists, this UWA thing or whatever it's called. But it's still there. So Microsoft did a lot of weird stuff back in the day. And it didn't help in their market position when it comes to Xbox and how competing with PlayStation, their biggest competitor. And Universal, UWP still exists. Yeah, it still exists, but it's not. They don't release video games as UWP anymore. Maybe if you start them over the Windows Store, but they're also selling their video games now on Steam, which I find is the most funny thing at all. Like Microsoft at some point said, "Yeah, you know what? Whatever." I think Sea of Thieves you can buy Sea of Thieves over Steam, I think. Yeah, it is on Steam. I have it ignored because I already own it over the Microsoft Store. And it costs currently Sea of Thieves Deluxe Bundle Upgrade. I don't know what is the Sea of Thieves 23 edition. That costs $40. Deluxe costs $50. And there's a pack for $10, but I think the game is not in it. I don't get it. I assume you need the game for it, and then you get the. I think it's the upgrade from the normal version to the deluxe edition. I assume that's that. Okay. Oh no, you posted a link. Always, I'm so sorry. Always when the bot deletes people's messages. But I can post your link because I still see it here in chat, so everybody can see it. I can also permit you. Speaking of permitting, why is my... My link not working. I hate it when stuff confuses me greatly, but it happens often. Oh god. I clicked on sign out. Now I have to sign in again. Awesome. I don't know my password out of my head. Chat, why is everything so complicated in life? Why I saved the command before the stream started. Now I want to use it and it doesn't work and it makes me angry. But yeah, it still exists and stuff like that. So I'm not sure, chat, Killswitch, especially because you are still there. What is your opinion on the acquisition of Activision Blizzard? Do you think that is a good thing in the long term, or do you think it's more a bad thing? I'm personally, well, I just wait till maybe other people in chat also might want to answer. I'm very curious what your opinions are on that. In the meantime, I'm looking for stuff. Posted it earlier. I can just post your message here again in chat. I just hoped I would have a bit of time. I'm a bit conflicted as it gives Microsoft much market power, I agree. But at least I think it helps Blizzard clean the house. So it's not all doom and gloom for. Yeah, that might be possible because Microsoft definitely want to make a good impression. Microsoft is like under a lot of pressure. So that is good. The problem I always see is that once this acquisition is done, you can't undo it easily. It can't be undone easily. That's what I want to say. And that kind of like currently, it might be good for Activision Blizzard that Microsoft is so much under pressure and wants definitely to leave a very good impression. But let me just see if this here works. Of course, I need phone code as well. One moment, chat. Just need to log in really quick so I have access on my stuff again. Oh man, that makes me so angry. Nothing is worse than locking out by accident from YouTube for me. Okay, let's switch my thing here. I hate it. Why didn't I do? I don't get it, chat. Why is this command not showing up? Is it too long? Did I do something wrong? No, now it's there. It wasn't there before. I don't get it why. Just want to get this here out of my head really quick. Finally, it works. Okay, awesome. So that's a video, but it has nothing to do with the actual topic. It was just something I thought about for a moment and thought, why doesn't it work? But now it got deleted. Yeah. I still can see all your messages until a certain point. So that is still there. But yeah, I'm a bit worried that on the long run it might not be good. As you say, Microsoft gets a lot of marketing power, and this, like, the reason, or market power, not marketing power, the reason though Microsoft already has a lot of market power, else they would not be able to just acquire Activision Blizzard and Bethesda. I didn't even like that they bought Bethesda, to be honest. I would have hoped they would just maybe buy a few game studios that feel promising, or just create several from scratch, like other companies also did. Though, to be fair, I think a lot of the bigger game studios have like a past and are not built from scratch. Like, it's very uncommon, I think, these days that you find big AAA development studios that are basically made from ground up, because you simply need the expertise and manpower, and you have to basically collect those people to build up a studio like this easily, and so on. So that, I think, is kind of definitely a thing to consider. I mean, there are also some exceptions. I think Ubisoft, for example, Ubisoft Montreal, I think, was always a Ubisoft studio, and they kind of build it from the ground up. It's also a pretty big thing. Yeah, that is true. Also, new studios almost always seem like reboots of people that worked on IPs together in the past. Exactly. There's definitely some overlapping in this context. Maybe I can... No, don't do this. Good that I don't have anything to hide here on this account. No, sorry for the white flash all of a sudden. Wikipedia does not have a dark mode, does it? But yeah, you can see would have to read all the information here. Yeah, here it also actually mentions it in the first line. So it's a long time ago that they found the studio, and they made of course some bigger title like the Splinter Cell games. They worked on several Assassin's Creed games and so on. It's a very important studio. We can just leave this open and switch back to this here. But yeah, it's kind of interesting from this perspective that this seems to be rare. So I can completely understand, like Microsoft, I also assume it takes some time. Like, first of all, just creating a studio. You need, if you want to have a AAA developer, you need like several hundreds of employees. You need a big building for this. You need the software, you need the computer, you need the internal infrastructure. That's not just falling from the sky. Just building all of this for so many people takes a moment or two. Then, when everything is done, the people can start working, and you need a long concept phase to make video games. Like, there's a lot of preparation that has to be done. There's planning, you have to do your game design documents, you have to discuss things, especially if you invest like, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that you invest into AAA games on this league these days. And you can't just, mix some random guys together and give them a bunch of money and wait till it's done. It's not how it works. I assume there's also maybe some marketing research that has to be done, and so on and so forth. Like a lot of details that go on before even game development kind of starts, and this amount of money is basically greenlit and say, yeah, here, you have the money, now develop this and you do this. I think that would take too long. So in Microsoft's situation, where they see, okay, Xbox One didn't sell too well, Xbox Series maybe doing okay currently, but we're missing killer apps, as people would call it, like games that sell the console. That's what you need, and that's also the reason why Sony has, for PlayStation, has done so many has got or built up so many studios that can develop these potential killer apps. Like when a new God of War would be announced, or I don't know, a new Last of Us, or I think it doesn't even matter at this point, anything what Naughty Dog is doing, then people would be completely excited for it, and it would definitely occupy in of itself a lot of attention when they just announce it. And getting to this point, to have this reputation, takes years. And that is a time Microsoft doesn't have. Microsoft did the mistake that they closed too many studios and didn't do anything to build up new structures. And now we are, keep in mind that the Xbox One if we go back here to my list here, Xbox One came out 2013 or something. Yeah, November 2013, Xbox One came out, and that's a long time. Maybe you can see this well. It's a long time ago, and from there it went consistently downhill, and it took them too long. When did they acquire Bethesda? That's maybe also an interesting thing to consider, because it kind of shows how recently this year is. In 2021, Microsoft purchased ZeniMax. That's the parent, I assume, parent company. Yeah, Media Technology Limited, then later ZeniMax. Parent company maintaining the company will continue to operate separate business. So it's separate business, but it's still owned by Microsoft. And it was only 2 years ago. It's not that long ago. That kind of shows how recent this development is, and how recent this, okay, we are losing ground. We don't have the studios to develop these big IPs. It's not even close. Of course, Microsoft also has some big IPs and so on. Let's say the classic Halo franchise, for example. Halo Infinite was the name of the last game. 343 Industries, I think they are also owned by Microsoft. Type, Division. Or are they independent? No, it's... Ethan Studio announced that the next Halo game title. I don't know, does somebody in chat know out of his head if 343, I think, is part of Microsoft, but I'm not 100% sure, actually. 343, it's not here on the side, unfortunately. It only says it's a division. Redmond, Washington, oh, here it is in the first sentence. It's part of Xbox Game Studios. Okay, yeah, I was right, I was just blind. So yeah, they have, of course, this studio. They have the Collision. They make the Gears game. Gears 5, I think, was the name. Can't type, though. 2019, the Collision. I'm not sure what they're currently working on. Oh, they did the Matrix Awakens thing. Interesting for PlayStation and Xbox. This, you remember this weird tech demo that looks almost photorealistic? I think they made this. Also, they made Gears Tactics, which is a very interesting spin-off of the series, and Gears 5 also impressed me a lot because it ran relatively, I think, at 4K 60 FPS on an Xbox Series. At least on the Xbox One X, I think it was called. Also, the naming of their consoles, in my opinion, is often not that great. We live now in a state where they, I don't know, Xbox One X, Xbox Series X, and Xbox Series S. That's just... Like, if you want to say this, you can't... It's like a tongue twist. It's just kind of funny. But it's just my opinion, though. I think, though hardware-wise, things are pretty decent. But, yeah, they have this studio. Then they have the Forza people. Forza Horizon. Let's take Horizon. It's the last one. Playground Games is the name. And they're currently working on Fable. I assume, because it's a relatively big studio, I'm not sure how big they are currently. Here it just says 200 plus, but I assume it's definitely more than this by now, because I assume they work on Forza and Fable in parallel. Else they would just, because Microsoft needs games, else they would just switch a new Horizon or a new Forza game every X amount of time. Well, they only made the Horizon games, to be fair, so maybe they pause the Horizon games and let's do the Forza Motorsport. That comes out this year, right, in October. This is done by another studio, Turn 10. So that's how they do it, I think. Maybe they make it like switching between the parts. They did this in the part between Motorsport and Horizon. Horizon's more the arcade, Motorsport more the simulation, kind of. And yeah, so I assume that's how they do this. And I think they did a pretty good job as well, even though I'm totally not into racing games, but I think their games always look great, got good reviews, and technically ran pretty well, so that's definitely a plus. Speaking of plus, what is the current flight simulator? This is interestingly developed by Asobo, which is not part of Microsoft. It's kind of interesting thing. They, for example, also, for example, worked on A Plague Tale, the developer behind A Plague Tale Requiem and the other game. And they always know, especially also made The Crew. It's kind of interesting if you look at their thing. They sometimes work with Microsoft, but also with Ubisoft, with Foucault. They do contracts with all kinds of developers. Very, very interesting to see. But it's very impressive that they do this here. And it seems like showing like a lot of details, very detailed graphics and maps is like a thing they specialized on already, especially with games like The Crew, which has a very, very big map. I think wasn't there another game they did at some point? It was kind of hinting at their expertise. They also did Recore. Did you remember this? This was, I think... No, it was not a launch title, it seems. It was 2016. 3 years into, they made also an exclusive game for called Recore. I think the reception of this game was pretty average. As you can see here, 58 on PC and Xbox 163. But it's kind of interesting to look at this. But it's still Asobo is still a free studio, and their Plague Tale games are well received by critics and fans alike. But it's also interesting, same as a flight simulator. So that's definitely also a thing they have. And now my knowledge of video games for Xbox gets slowly thin. Like they have Halo, the Forza games, 2 studios for that. One is now doing Fable. They have, it seems like, want to bring Fable back. Xbox Series exclusive. Let me just see what they have. Oh, Sea of Thieves, they have Rare. I forgot about the very interesting studio. Close the chat. Where do we have? Company, Rare. It's a British company. They're known for the Donkey Kong games and Conker and so on. They have a very long list. They are in there for some time. They were not always part of Microsoft, but at some point they got bought by Microsoft. I think here 2005 around, something like that. I can look in a moment. Perfect Zero, Saber, but yeah, they definitely know for Donkey Kong games. They made Battletoads, which is also a weird game. Like a lot of classic Rare games that people love exist. And currently, I'm not sure what else they are doing. There was an announcement of Everwild, but I think they went back into pre-production phase and basically changed their complete approach to what they wanted to do there. They make Battletoads? I didn't know. It was Dala Studios. Okay, I just was confused. But their biggest thing is Sea of Thieves, which I thought came out 2017, but it was 2018 actually. So I was a year off, but it doesn't matter too much. A very fantastic game in my opinion. But yeah, really hard to tell. This will kind of continue. What I like about Sea of Thieves is of course that Microsoft, or that Rare, continue to improve the game quite a bit, and it's a game for basically all ages. Like if you look at PlayStation high profile stuff outside of Ratchet and Clank, I feel like PlayStation currently has very little for younger gamers, if that makes sense, for children or so. But Sea of Thieves you can basically play in every age. I also noticed that Microsoft bought another big company, and that is Mojang Studios. In case you don't know these guys, this here is a guy who's also known by a different name. I think at least he's known by a different name, but yeah, this is a guy called Notch. Maybe I've heard of him. He's from Sweden, the Swedish company, and they made I think one of the most successful video games of all time called Minecraft. Maybe you have heard about this little indie game, and yeah, it's kind of, I can't believe that it came out 2011 or the first versions of it. Yeah, it was the first version that was released 2011 actually. The early access phase, the beta phase was 2009. I think I also played it before it came out. And then at some point Mojang was bought by Microsoft. 2014, something like this. Yeah. So that was already also a very big purchase, but this game flourishes also because it's available on all the platforms. Like, it's also on PlayStation. I'm not sure how well the PlayStation is still updated. Oh, that's interesting. You can't. Is it possible that you can't buy Minecraft on? You can't play Minecraft on PlayStation 5? Might be available though. Okay, there is an edition, I think, for PlayStation 5, but you don't get next-gen updates or something. Like, there's no receive an edition-specific updates for PlayStation 5. However, PlayStation 5 can still play Minecraft on their beloved consoles. That is because of PlayStation 5's backwards compatibility with PlayStation 4. That's interesting. But it also shows that Microsoft says, well, Minecraft is a pretty big killer app, but it's not new. Like, everybody has it on 3 systems, kind of. And in this regard, yeah. And it's only kind of Minecraft. I think there are other stuff that they were doing, like Minecraft Legends and so on, the Minecraft Dungeons thing and so on. I think those were also kind of well received. But you, at least in my bubble, I rarely hear about it. It was mixed to positive, so people said, yeah, it was kind of okay, can be fun, but nothing too special. But you have to keep in mind that Mojang, by its structure, is basically yeah, almost like a little indie studio, so there's that. Unfortunately, we don't get box office numbers or so we don't know how well it's sold. It's really hard to predict because it's also like a target audience that is basically not me. So I don't know much. I haven't played it, so I can't really comment if it's good or bad. I could imagine they hope that this kind of works, but it's not like that Microsoft has many games that are for children as well, if I'm honest. They of course also have Age of Empires. It's Age of Empires 4. I think there was also a PlayStation, an Xbox One version for it. I'm not sure if that's out yet, to be fair. It still says 2023, so it's supposed to come this year. But I'm not sure. It's by Relic. Relic is also a subsidiary, but I'm pretty sure they are not part of Microsoft. No, they are part of THQ. And were part of original THQ and then of Sega. And it's also, there was a rumor that Microsoft, I think, also thought about buying Sega. That would be an interesting move, to be honest. Because, yeah, I don't know. Microsoft is historically not doing well on the Japanese market with Xbox and so on, so getting a Japanese company could actually help. There was also the story that very early on, before Xbox One was, not Xbox One, the first Xbox, the original one, was out. I think they also were at Nintendo and thought about buying Nintendo or something, which still shows what an ridiculously rich company Microsoft is. Of course, Nintendo did not sell. They are just very, very, I think, conservative. As a result, I don't think that they would do this. And Nintendo is a very traditional company. Nintendo is interestingly over 100 years old. I think in video games it must be the oldest existing company. They did, of course, toys and so on in their history, but the company was actually founded 1889 by S. Nintendo Karuta. Kind of interesting. And then only later on in their history they started to making these Game & Watch things and so on. And then they slowly moved into this video game thing. It's a very interesting history, to be fair. But just imagine the timeline where Nintendo is owned by Microsoft. That would be kind of hilarious. Nintendo is also a very rich company because they sell basically nothing. They do on a loss, really. So they have like when it comes to assets and so they are like insanely rich. And yeah, the Nintendo Switch, I was told, is also doing not that bad, so there's that. But yeah, you see, currently, I searched here, Everwild, Senua's, Microsoft then acquired also some other interesting studios where that makes sense. For example, Senua's Sacrifice, Hellblade is the name they're made by Ninja Theory. I always confuse Ninja Theory and Team Ninja in my head, even though they're vastly different companies. And there's also a new one. This was an acquisition I could kind of understand, and I felt like it was a good fit for Microsoft. I think, like Ninja Theory can make all kinds of games. For example, they also made, even though it's not that popular, I think, DMC. People didn't like what they did with the this was the DMC 2013, the original. They didn't like what they did with the characters, but the gameplay and so on was praised quite a bit. So they're definitely able to put out games that have this gameplay. With Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, they also made like a very niche, specific game that got a lot of positive reception because of the topic it's caring about and so on. So it kind of makes sense. Hellblade 2 potentially comes out next year or whenever it's done. So in this regard, also that it enslaved Odyssey to the West, also a video game gem, kind of, which has this interesting protect the NPC concept, and I think it worked pretty well in this game. But yeah, it's in my opinion a good fit because they can do action stuff and they can do niche stuff and they can combine both aspects. So that's, I think, is a pretty smart acquisition by Microsoft here with Ninja Theory in recent years. Oh, I forgot they also have State of Decay developers. There was State of Decay 3. Maybe let's go to State of Decay. It's Undead Labs. Are they also part of Microsoft? The company became part of Microsoft in 2018 only. So there we also have a company. When we go back to Ninja Theory, they were also announced. It was one of the companies that were announced 2018, right? Yeah, Microsoft came in 2018. So 2018, Microsoft started, I think, to make their moves buying studios, which they, as explained, kind of had to do. And yeah, State of Decay 3 is kind of announced, but it's not clear when it comes out. That was the thing. I think State of Decay 2 was already not received that well. 69, 66. I'm not a fan, by the way, of Metacritic, but unfortunately it's often cited. I prefer OpenCritic because it shows how they weight their stuff. Yeah, and they also showed some footage of Avowed, which is developed by Obsidian Games. I'm not sure when they bought. Also, 2018 Obsidian Games was bought as well. Very curious how this game will turn out. Obsidian Games is an entertainment is an interesting company. They also bought, I think, an Exile Entertainment, right? Yeah, 2018 parent company, Microsoft. So there was this huge thing there. And then was Bethesda 2021. And now, 2023, we have Activision Blizzard. So Microsoft definitely amped up the amount of studios they got. Still, I think Microsoft will never get a good hold in Japan without buying Japanese companies. And I could imagine that Japanese companies don't want to be bought. So it might be difficult. Or not to be bought by an American company like Microsoft. Could imagine that Japan, from their perspective, they want to stay in the Asian part and maybe would prefer being bought by Japanese companies or so. Interestingly, we talked about 343 Industries a moment ago. They made the Halo stuff, and the previous Halo company is Bungie, of course, and they were bought by Sony. I didn't see. Yeah, 2022. It was last year, around about a year ago. And this kind of was already hinted at in the past, if you followed the news in this time, that this made also a lot of sense that Bungie is bought by Sony Interactive Entertainment doing the Destiny stuff. I'm not sure if they work on anything beyond Destiny currently. Marathon. Interesting. Didn't know. Okay, that's this. I remember the trailer now that I see the logo. Oh, they also did Oni. Wait. Is Oni part of? No, Oni is not part of this Marathon trilogy, right? They also have Myth. It's also interesting. So they're reviving an old IP there. Very interesting. Did anybody play Oni in chat? It was also an interesting game. Did I forget any games here? Everwild, Avowed we talked about. Hi-Fi Rush. Oh, speaking of Japanese companies, I'm not sure if this company is part. But there was this shadow drop of Hi-Fi Rush. Oh, it's part. I get it now. This is a I think Tango Rush is a Japanese developer, where also Shinji Mikami worked for. I'm not sure. And they were bought by ZeniMax, which is now bought by Microsoft. So this is another studio that Microsoft just also got for free. Same, by the way, with idsoft. Very curious. Does somebody know what idsoft is currently working on? There must also be some stuff. So it might be very exciting. I think Microsoft, with all these acquisitions, definitely we could see a lot of steam in the future for Microsoft to come up. Especially now when we go back to the initial news here, that this merger here happens. I think it takes some years till we really get out of the loop of exclusive stuff. Like it was the same with Bethesda. Like a lot of Bethesda games that came out in between after the acquisition were still kind of on other consoles, existed on other consoles and so on as well. But now, after those initial projects that were already, I don't know, there were maybe contracts with Sony going on, are done, we will slowly see to stuff becoming more exclusive to Microsoft. This kind of annoys me a little bit, I have to admit. It makes a lot of sense from Microsoft's perspective, but the problem is always, like, Sony of course also gets criticized, and they also try to get exclusive deals a lot. But an exclusive deal is, in my opinion, not as bad as or time exclusive deal, not as bad as acquiring whole companies and then make everything they will ever do exclusive. That's, in my opinion, a huge difference. Of course, like a lot of Square games are often timed exclusive. I think Final Fantasy VII Remake is not on Xbox, as a classic example, and so on. I think the Final Fantasy 16 is a timed exclusive. I'm not sure if there is even a release date for Xbox out, but I assume after a time it would be possible to release it on Xbox as well. So that can kind of work. But of course, as said, these deals, in my opinion, are just annoying for a lot of gamers, for sure. And ideally, you don't want these too many exclusives in the gaming world. But on the other side, an exclusive deal, as said, can be a one-time thing. Maybe next game the other company makes a better deal. And we see that Microsoft has a lot of financial power simply and can change things if they seriously invest into this, which they did now. But now Activision Blizzard's acquisition, that's still crazy to me. Like, such a big company just bought, which I would have preferred if it stayed independent, if I'm completely honest. I'm also not sure if, like you said, there is a chance that because Microsoft is under a lot of pressure, that Microsoft might, as you wrote, clean up the house. I like the way you worded that. And that might work. But what is if Microsoft fails? What if Microsoft is not cleaning the house? Then we only have more market power for Microsoft. And Microsoft is so big in theory, they could even buy Sony if they really wanted. But I guess only theoretically. I think practically that would never work. But just when it comes to financial power and so on, Microsoft has so many options. And this is now, with Microsoft getting so many big studios and big players like Activision, you really, like I said, it makes complete sense from Microsoft's perspective. I think strategically, if I would be a Microsoft employer, I would also applaud this decision. But as an independent person, I think maybe it's not that good for the whole gaming industry. Because here's another thing. They of course also have this Game Pass going on. And Game Pass is such a weird thing, in my opinion. It's the same as Epic Games, what they're currently doing, in a way. I think it is still more profitable for a company to sell like 12 million units or 10 million units of God of War for PlayStation 5 for $80 or whatever it costs, or $70, and versus putting it day one in your subscription service and hope that that the critical mass of people who own this Game Pass subscription is big enough to make kind of the same amount of money. I think it takes a very long time to get this even. And there were also some announcement that Microsoft is kind of like I don't know, 5 years ago or so, Microsoft hinted at that maybe they kind of break even with the Game Pass. And that is usually not a great business model, to lose money on your service or to lose. And Microsoft can only do this because they are so desperate, they are in need, they're so much under pressure. If Microsoft would leading the market, I think Game Pass would not exist in this form at all. Because why would they? Why not sell 17 million of Halo for $70? That makes you more money than getting X amount of Xbox Game Pass subscription and just basically giving it away below price for free day one. It's just, I think, not the ideal business model. And of course, PlayStation tried to also do something similar distantly, and kind of, how to phrase it, half-hearted their thing, kind of. But Sony does not see the need. They put just old games into this and say, yeah, we already made our money, but we don't need to put our AAA exclusive titles that are made basically for our first-party titles day one. We don't need to put this. People will just buy them for a lot of money. And that gives Sony, of course, a lot of profit there in this area. And it's also a position that Sony kind of worked for quite a bit. I mean, you can complain about Sony as much as you want, and they also do exclusive deals that hurt Microsoft and other platforms. And they also buy companies and let them do exclusive games for them themselves, same as Microsoft. But Sony definitely worked very hard for this position over the years and did a lot of smart decisions. And Microsoft was in a similar spot. Like I felt PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 era, Microsoft and Sony were kind of on the same level after that. I think Microsoft dominated this generation of this 360 generation versus PlayStation 3 quite a bit, though the Wii was its own thing that also dominated. It was a very interesting generation, but Sony could make also a lot of ground up over time, and I think at the very end, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 sold relatively evenly. Depending on, I guess, numbers and so on, you consult, I think, maybe one a little bit more than the other. It doesn't change, though, that the focus that Microsoft used at this older the console generation before last gen. In this era, Microsoft established a lot of online things, the trophy thing, game score and gamer score and so on. They also had for the long time or still have it, their PlayStation Gold thing, the Xbox Gold thing, subscription going on, so you can use online stuff and so on. They definitely established a lot of concepts that are now completely common, and the others adapted them. But it was just the PlayStation 1 era where they just said, yeah, screw that, our lead, let's just do every bad decision in a row we can do, plus bad marketing, and get completely dominated by others in the meantime. It was, it's so the Xbox One era is such a weird era. It makes no sense. Every decision of them was bad, kind of. And now they want to get back where they once were and have to get out the big guns in the form of huge investment and money that they pump into buying studios. And I think it will work at the end, to be fair. Like, Activision Blizzard and Bethesda have enough star power and enough competent AAA developers and a lot of hype behind their name, or enough hype behind their name to really push, I think, Xbox. If they would just imagine a year, like we're slowly starting now with Bethesda, right? And Starfield is coming out. Let's pretend Starfield is doing really well. I think that could definitely be like a seller for Xbox consoles and increasing their market share further when you can't have this on PlayStation. That also puts now Sony under a lot of pressure with their PlayStation. I think that's why they potentially bought Bungie, so that maybe Microsoft didn't buy them before them also. And Sony is, it's very interesting to see what Sony will do. The problem with Microsoft stuff, though, is what happens if they fail? There's always a possibility. Like, we have Bethesda, and Bethesda, though they make interesting games with a lot of love in them for sure, but they're always technical and absolutely disaster. Not always, but often. Itself makes technically really good games, but they sometimes tend to be kind of mediocre, with some exceptions. That is also true. Starfield will be on Game Pass from release on. That's what we discussed this a moment ago, or mentioned it. That this is also, I think, something like this is beyond buying Bethesda for several billion, like 7 billion, I think was the price, dollars, they also kind of sacrifice their full price sales with Game Pass. And it's kind of interesting because if we just see how does this work here. If we go to Epic Store right now and scroll a bit down, you see you can get Train Valley 2 for free right now. And in a few days, 4 days, you get this other game for free. And sometimes you don't know these games, but they also have given out really big games, like GTA 5 was given for free. I don't know, I would have to look at my Epic library, because I usually just steal those. It feels like stealing these games, almost. But this here is not a reasonable business model. And you can notice this because Epic does, in the past few years, only made losses, like really big losses, because they to get to the market power they need and to compete with Steam, they have to do this, because else it will be almost impossible for them to compete with Steam in any shape or form. People have their libraries on Steam, so Epic basically says, well, we give you a library for free, and then you check out our store. That's basically their approach. I would have preferred if they maybe also made, their store a bit better. Currently, I don't even have the Epic Store installed. Question is, where can I see my library without installing the client, chat? Is this even possible? I have to Google it. Epic. That's why their store's trash. I think it's in the storefront. You have to scroll down. How to view your library in your browser. Can only see it in the transaction thing. Yeah, that is why this here is trash. Should it take this long for me to find out where I see the games I own on this thing? In my opinion, no. Big rewards, my achievements, maybe in the achievement list. Browse games with achievements. It's all games, not my games. Yeah, well, I can't see the games I own because it's because either I'm too stupid, which is a possibility to be fair, or yeah, it's just Epic Store. Transactions, yeah, here I can see. I can only see it under my account information and transactions. Cool. Death Stranding was given for free. Saints Row 4 was given for free. Star Wars Squadrons was given out for free. Wow. Payday 2 was given for free. Guacamelee, Fallout New Vegas. The Sims 4, I think, was given for free. Maybe it was only... No, it's a bundle. It's not Sims 4. Okay. Mortal was given for free. Dishonored, Death of the Outsider was given out for free. Shadow Tactics, Ico's Choice. That's, I think, the standalone expansion for Shadow Tactics. Also for free. Global Space Program is for free. The first Dishonored, Mortal Shell, was given out for free. Like I said, Death Stranding is probably one of the biggest things. Fable was given out for free. I also bought it on Steam though. A lot of these games here listed I bought on Steam as well. Ninja Rebirth, Jotun, Borderlands 3 was given out for free. Oh, Borderlands 3. Yeah, the the company Gearbox is owned by THQ or by Embracer Group. Also an interesting topic, I think. Some of the Tomb Raider games, the Tomb Raider Game of the Year edition was given for Share of the Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Assault and Sanctuary, Prey was given for free, Vampire was given, also Vampire, Loop Hero also. Prison Architect, Shenmue 3 Standard Edition, interesting choice. Didn't you know I own Dead by Daylight on Epic? And even though I have all those games on Epic, I never use it. I have cases where I own the game on Epic and just bought it on Steam to play there. It's kind of funny. Oh, A Plague Tale Innocence was also given out for free. Like, a lot of games over the years. Like, a massive amount. I mean, it's not that expensive, but it's definitely a very well-known game. Among Us. Frostpunk also. Oh, we talked about Dedelic Entertainment in on my game video thing here. Ken Follett's The Pillars of the Earth was also made by Dedelic, also for free here. Deponia for free. Very interesting. Absolute Drift, no, I don't need. Sunless Sea. Also very interesting game. Metro Last Light Redux, also for free. Rage 2. We spoke about id Software. They made Rage 2, I think. Star Wars Battlefront 2 was also for free. Wow. Darkest Dungeon, Tropico 5. I also own this on Steam. City Skylines, Pillars of Eternity. Tyranny Gold Edition, also by the guys who made Pillars of Eternity, which is, I think, Obsidian, or is it In Exile? I forgot. The problem is I can't show you my list here because of transaction information stuff. Just don't leak too much here. But yeah, I don't got all the games that were given out on Epic for free, but I got a lot of them. Obsidian, yeah. Thank you. For the King, also Amnesia The Dark Descent, the first Amnesia game. It's a really impressive list. Just Cause 4 was also given for free here. I also own this on Steam, interestingly. And I bought it there. Watch Dogs, World War Z. Oh man. But yeah, the point is, they gave out a massive amount of games for free. But as said, you can't do this until the end. Like at some point, and we see this also already here when we go back to the Game Pass. The Game Pass increased in price, or will. I'm not sure if it did already, or if it's later. It later will increase in price at least. And it's the same with the store. Currently, they're giving out freebies. They have very generous sales on Epic Games because they need to acquire people to use their stuff. They don't do this out of goodwill or anything. They do this because they want you to use their store. And I think it's a valid approach, but it's a huge investment. The only reason why Epic can do this is because of Fortnite money. But I think that, though, this is, if you don't have a company that is insanely rich, like Microsoft or Epic, you can't do this. Like, there are not many companies in the video game industry that could just make a store like this and give out free games for like 3 years straight, or 4 years. I'm not even sure when they started giving out free games. In my list, we only went to 2020, and I already had so many things. That's 3 years ago. You know what I mean? It's just not a sustainable business plan to just give out free games for free and give in sales people these coupons that allows them to get also I don't know, $20-something, or I forgot how it worked exactly. But you have good deals, and on top of that, you also give discounts so that people almost pay nothing for a game. That's not how you make money in the internet. And they only do this because they are in the we want to acquire more customers phase. As soon as this phase is over and they have the numbers they are looking out for, this will vanish, of course, and change. That's kind of what I mean. This is very good, by the way, for us gamers. We have competition. It's good that Steam has competition, and Steam maybe also has to see what they do on their platform and so on. And for others to get a share of the market, they have to do these investments and crazy things like literally gifting you games for free for years. Every 2 weeks or every month, like, you get a new game. Sometimes there was some eras where you got Christmas, or you got every day you got you got a new game on Epic for free. It's just insanity. And this is good for us because we get games for free and can play them, or we get access to a lot of games, first party AAA games from Microsoft also, for like a relatively low price. It's definitely worth it. Like, the Game Pass is crazy value for us customers. The problem is, of course, when this ends and they have reached their goal. And this is the reason why I think this is in the end negative for us gamers, kind of. I should stop clicking on stuff. It's negative for us gamers because when this phase is over, the good times will not come back. As long as the good times don't need to come back, if that makes sense. As soon as Microsoft has their Game Pass running, and even if it has to be more expensive, then they just crank up the price of it. Or they make the Game Pass Lite, where you only have half the library and not the day one AAA exclusive games in it. Maybe only the older backlog of their games. And it's cheaper. And the full Game Pass then costs more, something like this. We see this on EA. EA Pro, what is it called? EA Play Pro? Yeah, EA Play Pro. There's also EA Play Basic. Let me see how I get this on screen without... Is this the English thing here? Spiele, that's the German word for games. Let's switch the language to, say, United States. I have a bad feeling about this. What could possibly go wrong, chat? That kind of worked. Yeah, but here, if we look at EA, also has a service thing. We have Play, which is $3.99 a month, and for $15, which is like 5 times as much, you get also unlimited access to all the library of premium edition Electronic Arts games. And here you only get select new release games for up to 10 hours, so you can play them early, I think. Unlock game member rewards, get unlimited access to collection of our best loved games. So it's not all the games they have. We would have to go into the store. Maybe here's a list or so. I love lists like this. But you see, Okay, 2024 is in... The games, of course, I think cycle into it. I'm not sure where the store is. How do we get to the store, chat? We have to click on EA, right? Games... latest games or something. If I remember correctly, you could click on these things and it would say basic or pro. It's currently not here, so for me it's currently difficult to show you that, but believe me, that's the official site. I don't know. It's too difficult to navigate here through nonsensical electronic art stuff, but yeah, it's how this works. So I think in the end, it might be not too good for us when... currently, I think it's good. I think it was in basic, you could play 10 hours of the new titles. Yeah, something like this, right? You could like get a demo of it if you a 10-hour demo or something like this. I'm not sure if it's still there, but I could imagine that maybe Microsoft will do something similar at some point, because they say, well, we make you a really good offer for our old backlog, but we also want to get these juicy $70 to $80 for you for first-party titles. I think it was like this, right? You could play for 10 hours. Maybe they changed this. I don't know. I had it once when Jedi's Fallen Order came out, and I played it a little bit over this, and then I bought the game. So I just said, yeah, I try it out. If it's good, I liked it a lot, and I bought it. I think I also had this play 10 hours or something like that. I forgot. It was not that expensive though. But yeah, I assume now to get the goodwill of the player base, and maybe to also minimize the complaints of other companies like Sony. They said, well, we make a contract with you. They have signed a binding agreement that Call of Duty will also release on PlayStation. So this makes sense because Call of Duty is such a big trademark, such a big game series in the gaming industry, even though a lot of critic people complain about it quite a bit, but people play it like crazy in all its iterations, and it sells usually pretty impressive. Yeah, if I want to play a new game, EA game, I just get it for 1 month or something like that. Yeah, exactly. You could do this. I'm kind of conservative when it comes to this. I really like owning the game. Like saying, yeah, in 2 years, I want to play that again, and I'm not on a counter. It's maybe also because I'm a content creator of sorts, and sometimes I want to revisit a game or make a video or record footage for something, and then I don't have to, I just have access to it. I kind of like that. And I can, like, for a lot of other gamers, though, this is pretty good. When they say, yeah, I just have time this month or the coming weeks, I will just play through this little game here really fast, and then don't have to pay full price. It's definitely like an interesting offer. And as said, currently for us gamers, that's absolutely awesome that we have so many offers, so many ways to play video games. The downside of it is this doesn't help competition. Like, this is the gaming market, basically the competition just got a lot smaller. And I think in the long run, in the future, and also considering that Game Pass is maybe also not a perfect, sustainable model for video game sales, as long as this is the case and that we have a company, like Microsoft also had antitrust cases in the past as well. And Microsoft often uses their market power also to dominate the market in certain places. This now is another step by Microsoft doing this in the gaming market. when they just buy so many big publishers. Like, we're not even talking about, like Sony often buys a small game studio or a mid-sized or even a big game studio, but this is like a publisher possessing multiple big game studios at once with 17,000 employees. Like, keep this in mind. We're talking about 17,000 employees that Microsoft just bought. That is massive. And I think that is not great. I think for us all, it would be better if Activision stayed independent. But it seems like the antitrust people said, well, it's not that big of a problem. I mean, they also allowed Disney to buy Lucas and Fox, 20th Century Fox, and so on. Well, there's not much to say there, I guess. For also like 17 billion or something, some ridiculous amount of money. Oh yeah, that's totally okay. They just buy something for 70 billion, and they only have 70 billion to spend because they already dominate other markets. So let's just make them the market dominate another market, or the market more. Doesn't make any, whatever. It's just ridiculous. Oh, that's also normally true, but most EA games I play are sports games, so it's I try out the new features and see it's basically the same and don't play it anymore. Yeah, I can see that. But it's relatively interesting to see this development. I don't have much to say anymore. I think, though, for now, this will be potentially good for Activision Blizzard. I could also see it having a positive effect. And I could also see that for now, with people getting the games for cheap in the Game Pass if they have it, that is also pretty great. Like, Starfield's a good example. I'm also curious how that game turns out, to be honest. But I think let's talk again in 5 years or in 6 years and see how the gaming market has developed then. I think for the next 3 to 4 years, everything will be okay. But I think then slowly we might see the consequences of this purchase here. And maybe we will say, well, that's my prediction. I could be completely wrong, but maybe we say, well, it would have been better if Microsoft did not buy Activision Blizzard and Bethesda. Probably I'm getting the Game Pass for 1 month for Starfield and then decide, yeah. I mean, as said, even though I'm like streaming here, also my gaming channel is kind of a hobby, though I have to admit I would love to pump my gaming channel up to less hobby, more professional, if that makes sense. Like, to the same realm as my main channel, let's put it that way. And in these cases, I can often justify to, because I'm a content creator, to buy a game and make content out of it. Sometimes I buy a game to make content out of it and don't make content out of it. But for me, it's always like a reason to buy a game or so and say, yeah, I maybe make something out of that and get basically my investment back, if that makes sense, my gaming purchase. Get the money back by content creation or through content creation. So I'm my approach is, I guess, for sure a bit different here and there. But it's definitely interesting. I'm very curious where this will lead at the end. My prediction would be, at the beginning, things become better, but then things become potentially worse. And people, I think, don't fully grasp, especially a lot of discussion on the internet, how big this acquisition of Activision Blizzard is. Like, just what the impact of this, how much professionals and resources are bound in this company and are now basically available to work for Microsoft only. That's pretty huge for Western game development. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think that Sony will do bad in the same time. So currently for competition between Sony and Microsoft, this is a pretty good move and potentially brings them closer to equal, especially if now the first big AAA first-party games for Microsoft exclusives come out. It might be interesting to see how Japan reacts to this in the future. Maybe Japan says, well, Microsoft is basically binding a lot of resources of Western developers to itself. Maybe the Japanese then isolate them a little bit and stay among them, if that makes sense. So we might see more exclusive deals from Japanese developers, or even more. We see a lot of those already for PlayStation and so on. And Nintendo, I should also name here. Very interesting to see what they will do. Especially Nintendo is a very interesting case because their console, their Switch, is already 5 years old. It came out 2017, the Nintendo Switch. And I would not be surprised if they next year or something announce a new successor to the Switch. I don't see it then. I don't know. Currently the Switch still sells, so they have no reason to say yeah. Because when you announce a new console, I assume the sales of the Switch will diminish because people will wait to get the new console then, kind of. So I think Nintendo says, well, we have time. The Switch is also, it's a really interesting case in my opinion. Like, it has a crazy big installment base by now, though they had to kind of cannibalize the handheld market for it. Keep in mind that there was a time where Nintendo had the DS and the Nintendo Wii at the same time, which is like massive amounts of units sold together, and they were not competing in the same field. The Switch now basically is a combination of both fields. Though it's crazy successful because the installment base is great and they have a lot of really, really, really good selling titles on the Switch. Like the new Zelda sold pretty well, I think. Mario Kart or something like that. Some crazy numbers these games pull that they push out. They haven't even made a second main Super Mario jump and run game like Super Mario Odyssey. So I'm very curious to see what they do. I think what Nintendo definitely, maybe if Nintendo has learned the lesson, they know that when they bring out a new console, they need a killer app on release. It worked very well with Breath of the Wild and the Switch, which was also cross-gen. It was also on the Wii U. But the Wii U was sold so bad in comparison. Like it sold like, I don't know, 50 million units or something like this. Compare this to the 120 million plus they sold with the Switch alone. Though to be fair, during the Wii U era, they had the 3DS, I think, still. So, and the 3DS sold pretty well. So it was not like they were completely failing there. But I assume we need, again, like a big title that is kind of cross generations, like a Zelda, a new Super Mario or so. And since a new Zelda just came out, either they still wait 3 more years with the Switch, which I think it's not impossible, to be fair, but I think it's very unlikely. Or they maybe wait till they have a new Nintendo and Mario game ready, like Odyssey 2, whatever. It won't be called Odyssey 2, but you know what I mean. I think successor to this game or something could be really big. Wow, RB Kitty, long time no see. Also, thank you for your sub, much appreciated. I hope you're doing well, especially in these hot days. And considering where you live, I assume you must be melting. So I hope you're doing well at these high temperatures these days. We're also currently discussing for 2 hours now almost the acquisition of Activision Blizzard by Microsoft. And it's kind of interesting seeing your name popping up. Because you also have, I think, in your past you mentioned We had some connections to Microsoft, I think. But yeah, it's a very interesting time that we're currently in. I think currently we are, especially this year, like this year is absolutely crazy when it comes to video game releases. There are so many video games coming out here. It is, I think the correct term is next level insanity. And yeah, we're living in a really good time for video games. Like they are with stuff like Game Pass and so on, it's really affordable on one side. On the other side, we have you know, the other stuff like the, where is it? Yeah, this thing. Electronic Arts also has like a concept like this on their page. I just need to find it here. It's really good. We have the consoles. Potentially Nintendo will bring out a console in the next few years. They also bring out very strong games. Oh, sorry, I missed what you said because I had to subscribe via Firefox, but the sound doesn't work on there. So now I'm back and on the Twitch app. Oh, sorry. I said thank you, RB Kitty. Much appreciated. Thank you for your sub. Let me drink something really fast. And I said long time no see, and I am considering where you live. You must be melting. Must be very warm, as we as I heard. So I hope you're doing well in this heat. Even here in Germany, it's relatively warm. Today was okay, to be fair. And we discussed Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, and that it seems like the deal is currently getting through. It seems like the complaints were all put aside, and potentially part of it is that they have signed a binding agreement that Call of Duty will also be always on PlayStation, it seems. And then I said, you also had in your past some ties to Microsoft, so it's kind of funny that when we talk about Microsoft, you show up in chat and appear here. And it's just thought, oh, RB Kitty also told me about Microsoft in the past. It is warm, but I live near the coast, so it's not as hot as elsewhere. Okay. Wenn man vom Teufel spricht. Yeah, that's exactly. Oh, you had about 30 degrees. I'm not sure how. Actually, I've not looked at temperature measurement today, but I think it was a lot, at least here in the Ruhrgebiet, it was less warm for me. Like maybe 24 something or so, 22, I don't know. It was pretty, compared to previous days, it was not 30, definitely not. I use the silent time to eat my chocolate bar. Okay, that was needed. Turns out, talking for 2 hours makes you really thirsty. I didn't know that. Also tomorrow, for people wondering, there will be a live stream on my YouTube channel about Tolkien Lord of the Ring lore stuff. Finally again. And tomorrow evening it's only about 24 Celsius. Okay, that's not that warm. That's where it's 40. Yeah, that's what I heard. Like some areas there at the west coast have like 40 degrees Celsius or something like that, which sounds deadly for me personally. I'm more a fan of like 15 degrees Celsius. That's for me like the ideal temperature. outside. We had 36 last week, I think. Oh. Yeah, I remember there was one day last week that was insanely hot. It also feels like I made the 20 is ideal for you. For me, it's more below, definitely below 20. For me, it's like 15, 16. That's for me like the ideal temperature outside. Inside, maybe it's also more around 20 or 19 or something. Wait a moment, I'm just shocked. A friend for me, I suggested a friend likes to play strategy games, and I suggested Jagged Alliance, or however it's pronounced, 3, which came out and got really good reviews for the most part, and it seems like a pretty decent game, and he just wrote me, never heard of that. I'm kind of, what? Just sent him the link. I'm just, it confuses me greatly. Oh, 18 is ideal for you outside, yeah. I can definitely see that. That's why I will flee north for my vacation. Okay, makes kind of sense. When yesterday I recorded Cyberpunk, I made the video and had to do some recordings, and when I did a video about path tracing in Cyberpunk, and we will look into this in a moment, because I also said we want to do Cyberpunk stuff. Here's, by the way, the link to the video in case you haven't seen it yet. Then, I like that the command now works. In Cyberpunk, if you run path tracing is extremely taxing for your computer. So my graphics card basically is working on maximum load all the time. My CPU usage pretty high because recording and stuff. And this room got so hot here. It was already warm, but with your computer, which is quite powerful, running at maximum power all the time, it's kind of insane how warm it can get in addition. Oh, but Zuda is also here. What is this day? Is it Christmas already? Nice to see you. A long time no see. In case you haven't seen it, there's a new video on the gaming channel about path tracing in Cyberpunk. And I still hope that a lot of... I think I misspelled path tracing. And Bipsuda subscribes or resubscribes with a woo. That was terribly wooed. I know. Thank you, Bipsuda. Much appreciated. Thank you for your sub. Really awesome. Nice to see you. I hope you're doing well. You said last time we talked, I think you said you were kind of sick. Hope you are doing better. So nice to see you here again. But yeah, the command is of course path trace. All better, thankfully. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Chris finding out how to spell path tracing. I really need to open the window in a moment. It's just getting too hot here. I think my brain is just fried. Oh, you have been hospitalized. Hope you also then recover. Get well soon. Gute Besserung, as we say in German. Haven't had a chance to check out the video yet. Been doing work on the weekend as punishment for slacking off all week. Yeah, I kind of feel this. I also have a tendency to sometimes say, yeah, I don't want to do too much today, and then I have to work at the weekend. It's I feel you. But yeah, it's nice that your rare and precious free time and that you spend here and showing up here on stream is really awesome. Much appreciated. And yeah, I said, Abi Kitty, hope you are doing well. Tell me over DM what's going on. I will answer later though, if you do. But yeah, it's a thing. We discussed, as you can see, the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, as this tweet here suggests that it seems it's very likely that it will happen. And we got a news a few days ago that the antitrust organizations, however it's called, Kartellämter, as we say in German, there was an agreement between Microsoft and them, kind of. And there's only like one that has some complaints, but it currently seems like Microsoft. This deal will get through. It's very, very likely. I think this announcement might also have to do with it, to say, yeah, even though we buy Activision Blizzard, we don't want to form a trust, if that makes sense. We bring it to PlayStation as well. So there's that. Just to fill you up. We talked about this for quite some time in the past 2 hours, so some people have heard this already 5 times. I'm sleeping a lot, but I'm progressing. Okay, yeah, well, it's, I think, always good when you sleep a lot and recover. When I'm sick, I also like to sleep a lot, so that seems to be the thing. You're still playing Monster Hunter Rising, Abi Kitty? Doing progress there as well. Also, I forgot if you were also not there when you said you were off for a moment and didn't hear what I said. I also said that tomorrow will be a lore Q&A live stream on the YouTube channel, and since you also like Lord of the Rings stuff, so if you're interested, tomorrow there will be another stream, but not here, but on YouTube, on the main channel, of course. Also for all the others interested in that. Can also post you the link if you want to see the link. But I posted it on Discord, so yes, you people here have access to that as well. Tomorrow, blah blah blah. Yeah, that should be the link. Yeah, I can post it in the thing. Yes, Monster Hunter Rise, but I have fallen behind due to my health issue. Oh, okay, so sounds very serious then. Well, the good thing is potentially that, you know, it's a game. You can take a break and then catch up at a later point again. Let me just write a message really quick. I will be there if I'm awake. Awesome. Looking forward to see some familiar faces. I haven't streamed on the main channel, unfortunately. I slacked. Bibzula said, yeah, a moment ago, I had to work at the weekend because I was slacking off all week. I slacked off streaming on the main channel for quite a bit. I'm very sorry for that. Kind of. So I want to stream more often this coming up weeks. And maybe stream more frequently for some time to catch up with not making too much content on the main channel. Also slacked a bit on content. On the main channel for sure, I think, but I focused like a lot recently on the game channel. And that is... I'm not trying to guilt you into something. So for me, like from my perspective, it felt like I have done a ton of content recently. But I think for people just following the main channel, it didn't feel like really if that makes sense. Like in June, I made this Final Fantasy Rebirth analysis thing. I made an update video to Jedi Survivor. I made like a half-an-hour video about what's coming up in Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty DLC that will come out in September. Another update on Jedi Survivor. Then we discussed the Gollum game developers closing their development division and only do publishing. And today I made a 46-minute long video about past racing. That was basically what I was working on. In between, I streamed a bit here on Twitch. Though I have to admit, I didn't do much streaming here on Twitch as well. We had, I don't know, what did I do? I had a Street Fighter stream. I completed the Gollum game, by the way, here on the main channel. And I did the Gollum game Let's Play on the main channel, 2 episodes or something. I have to admit, the Gollum game Let's Play episodes, nobody watches them, so I'm not that motivated. First of all, I don't like the game that much. Then nobody is watching the videos. It's a combination for disaster. Yeah, in June I made the first episode and the second one, and both of the first is 1 hour, the second is 1 hour 20, though. But still, I have to record it and so on, which takes some time. Oh, was it a lot of fun? Well, unfortunately, the Gollum game. To be honest, I also slacked on viewing. Well, PVT Kill Switch. Now you have something to watch if you're interested. But yeah. Now, the Gollum game, I also made a review about the game, and I don't know. Like I said, I played completely through the game here on Twitch, except for the first 2 chapters. They are on YouTube. There's a 2-hour first impression stream on YouTube on my main channel. And I re-recorded the first 2 hours for the Let's Play, and then recorded when I streamed it here on Twitch, I played through the game and recorded it locally at the same time to get better video quality. And so I have completely played through the game here on Twitch in 2 episodes. Like, one stream is 10 hours and the other 6 hours or something. So it's 16 hours of play, and we are discussing a lot of stuff, and I'm also dying a lot. Unfortunately, the game is not that great. It's, I would say, one of the worst games I've played in a long time. Unfortunately. I have to admit, though, the developers, when it comes, the Gollum game developers, in my opinion, definitely treated, though, the lore, what Tolkien wrote, the books and so on, with respect. I have to say that. Like, they really put in some details. If you know the books very well, you can definitely appreciate those. And those details in the Gollum game. But unfortunately, the gameplay is really, really bad. Like, often people complain that games always get like 7 out of 10 or 6 out of 10. What must the game do to get a 4 out of 10? The Gollum game is a 4 out of 10 game. Maybe even worse. Technically, it's not as bad as potentially Jedi Survivor. And Jedi Survivor was a much bigger game. But yeah. It's technically not that great. It doesn't play well. The game design is terrible in this game. And the story is not that interesting. And that is unfortunately brings it into a position where it's simply far below average these days. And that is why, yeah. Very unfortunate. The game was a huge flop, it seems, and the studio who made it and also published it, it was published by Necron, I think. Doesn't matter though. The studio who made it has a publishing division and a development division. And in the development division, the game was developed, and this division developing games was closed as a result because the game was received so bad and didn't sell well. So it's very unfortunate. Yeah, at least the lore is good. Like, for example, the fell beasts have a beak in this game, like it's described in the book. Details like this. The Sindarin is pretty decent for the most part. Phonetically, I heard there's on our content creator Discord, there's one guy who is like an absolute expert in Elvish languages, like Sindarin and so on. He says grammatically there are definitely some mistakes in it. But it could be that he uses Neo-Sindarin knowledge, and maybe the person consulted for the Sindarin in the game uses the Sindarin knowledge from the 70s or so. I don't know. that's a complicated topic, but at least phonetically it sounds good. Yeah, Diablo 4 is actually pretty good. I would also say that. It potentially has its problems, because Diablo 4, I also played it here on stream a little bit. Let me see if I can show you the footage. Because I always feel a bit bad when I don't show footage here and just all talk. Watch. Let me see if I can bring this up on screen. Let me just switch this here over. No, that's the wrong field. This here is right. So here's me playing Diablo, where we make a bit, not haste, but make it big. So yeah. I just play like very casually. I'm not very far yet. If I play it, I mostly play it with a friend. But I also made, there I play a druid, here play a barbarian. I made for stream, I made a barbarian to play it a little bit. For my impressions, it's a pretty a decent game. It feels like that the build variety is in some cases far too low for really late game stuff. Like, I heard some complaints about this. But if you play it like me, like once or twice a week, no, that's the other thing, then it is, oh yeah, here this butcher guy invaded me like 3 times that day, and I can't kill him on this low level. I'm not equipped well enough for that. Oh, I should have fought him there. I'm an idiot. Chris, why was I so stupid? That was close. Okay, because in the bubble I'm invulnerable if I know it. And I don't know where to go. This level is unfortunately very annoying. Of course, he slows me down there. I dodged the hook though, but spoiler, we will die here. I don't know where to go. That was a dead end. And I don't have healing left. I can't heal, and yeah. He got me there. This time, but we will get our revenge. But yeah, it looks really good. A friend of mine, like I said, I play mostly with a friend. Also, I want to hint at my character name, which is Aufsmaul, which is basically it's hard to translate, but it means it's an implication of punching somebody in the face. So yeah, I found it very funny when I created this barbarian. It's also fitting for barbarian, in my opinion. But I think you have to be German to really appreciate this joke. Nomen est omen. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, beyond that, it's a pretty fantastic game. Maybe I should here press play and show you. Like, the scenery looks usually pretty decent. Oh, there's a big spider. Careful for arachnophobia people. Like, visually, I really like how the game is looking. So far, I have a really good time with my low-level barbarian. My goal is just to play through the story one time or so. I don't see myself streaming this that often. I mean, if people are interested, I could stream it again. I'm not sure. Chat, it's your decision. You are watching this. We could definitely also play Diablo again on stream. I think people also watched me playing this here on my archive channel, like the views. Could they also play Street Fighter a bit? So there's that. To be fair, I think the views on the Diablo thing were not that great, because everybody and their dog is streaming and playing Diablo currently. So there's a content oversaturation for it. That's also the reason why I'm not consistently playing. I made 2 streams because I felt like I needed something to relax. It's just staying in front of a guy with your barbarian and spinning to win a little bit. That I can do. It's kind of relaxing in a weird way. So I felt like for this, the game was pretty decent. I have to say the visual quality is also not bad. Often worried about visual quality in my streams. And because the bitrate is so limited when you stream on Twitch and also it's at times on YouTube, you due to the compression and so on, always looks not that good. Spin to win, just like Counter-Strike. Isn't spin to win, like, I know the phrase spin to win from League of Legends, from Garen players. Or for people complaining about Garen players. But spoiler, I potentially won't ever play League of Legends here on stream. Ouch, that hurt. I haven't played League of Legends in 8 years or so keep that in mind. But back in the day, like when it 2010 to 2015 or 14 or so, I played it relatively actively, quite a lot. And then I also played a bit of other stuff like Dota 2 and Heroes of the Storm, even a bit of Smite. So all kinds of... I really like the genre of those Dota clones, as I would call them. I hate the term mobile. Also made a video about this. But it was a long time ago. But yeah. This year also Diablo 5 could be exclusive for Microsoft consoles though. And PC of course. But for me Diablo is always a PC game. However, that is an interesting thing. I remember being on Gamescom. League has such a toxic community. Yes, it has. It's also my experience. I mean, all competitive games kind of have, but some games are just worse than others. I would say, I'm not sure. I'm not really into Counter-Strike. It's kind of weird. Even in my younger days, it was never a game I played much. I was never really a big Counter-Strike person. Don't you guys have phones? Yeah. Diablo. Immortal. Ooh. I also played Diablo Immortally on stream. But I didn't touch it ever again. We can just hope that marketing will be better with Microsoft next time. Oh man. But yeah, it's a fun game. It has a lot of content, like there are tons of side quests. Some side quests are actually also interesting, some are not so interesting though. What I would criticize is I hate the story of Diablo 3, personally. And there they, spoiler, killed Deckard Cain in Diablo 3. And in this game, there's another character who's also an old, wise Horadrim guy. He's a bit different than Cain, to be fair. But in a way, he is just Deckard Cain. So, just with a deeper and cooler voice, to be fair. But, like, the voice actor of the Loras, I think is his name, is such a cool voice, in my opinion. I wish I could talk like that. But... I also changed my Barbarian a bit from Spin to Rin to use the Ancient Hammer, which is actually a lot of fun. I really like the idea of hitting the enemy and it just explodes. It's kind of cool. But yeah, that's kind of weird, the whole story. Like, killing off such an iconic character, the payoff is so bad in this game, in my opinion. The story is also not that great. And then they introduce a new character with what's her name? Leah or so? Forgot her name. And yeah, how they treated her was also, in my opinion, very stupid. So overall, I didn't like this. I'm very curious how this game might end. I haven't seen the ending of Diablo 4 yet. Because, like I said, I only play with a friend and he is very busy. So we only play like 2 times a month or so. So it's not very often that I play. And I play it mostly private, because sometimes you need like a private game with friends or so. And just for streaming's sake, I made like this barbarian here, so I have a character I can maybe show here for people interested in this. But I said there are better players, Diablo players than me that make late game content and so on. I think you will find a better Let's Plays of this game than here. But though, maybe I might play it at some point again on stream again when I feel like it. What a problem that I currently have though is my friend plays on his has like a gaming laptop, and this game worked really fine for him for the most part until last patch. Recently was the last patch. Every time he plays the game for like 5 minutes, his frame rate just randomly goes down to like 6 FPS and it never recovers. And there's nothing he can do about it. It was not like that before the patch, and he didn't change anything, so he's kind of sad that he currently can't play, and I'm also sad that we currently can't play. Because that was always kind of a lot of fun. If somebody in chat or in the comments knows a solution for this problem, please post it in the comments or let me know or write me on Discord or whatever. Or we just have to wait another patch. I think also this season, the first season of Diablo 4 is starting soon. That might be interesting for some people. And the seasonal characters work like this. If you are very far and fast through the game, there's a mode where you can create a character and you basically skip the story section of this here. This is the story character. You can also, when you play through the story once, you can create a character that doesn't have to play through the story. You can just go everywhere and basically level up in dungeons very fast and so on. To play, let's call it, more efficiently. And yeah, this most other players do, and then they do special stuff. And because when you play this a lot and like this, you level up and get gear and grind up your characters to whatever level you think is good. And the seasonal characters then will reset, and basically you start at 1 again. I think there are certain things you keep, but most things will reset. But just this character though. And it is so that people can try different builds and approaches to the game, and then there are new mechanics introduced into the seasons. They also said in the interview that if the season mechanic that they implement for these seasonal characters, if that is interesting enough, that they will maybe make it also part of the main game. I think maybe somebody in chat can correct me. I think the main, how this basically works with the seasonal characters. Imagine there are 2 servers, server A and B, and the seasonal characters are on server B. And when the season ends, I think they get transferred back to server A, which is called the Eternal Realm. Or I said it wrong. Eternal Realm. I always want to pronounce the word realm, because I'm an idiot. No, because English is weird. It's a combination of both. English being weird and me being an idiot, I think. However, this is basically how it kind of works. And then the next season, on server B, you start a new character, basically. And on server B, there are also new mechanics and stuff for this, which is then in parts transferred to server A, if that makes sense. But there are some connections between the servers. So some stuff from server A, like your map progression, like waypoints and stuff like that, Fog of War, the Lilith statues, and so on, are also transferred to server B. It's complicated, but I think I explained this correctly. You're not an idiot. English is weird. That is true, but I kind of feel also bad for dissing a language that I actually like that much. But English sometimes is really weird. I mean, it could also be pronounced realm. Like real and then an M at the end, but it, for whatever reason, it becomes realm. It's the same with bear and deer. But we discussed this so many times in the stream already. But yeah, it's not that interesting to watch, I think, Diablo. I'm not sure, Chad. What do you think? Is it interesting to watch how somebody plays slowly through Diablo, playing story missions and side quests and so on? I'm not so sure. But yeah, I definitely would say I'm surprised by how well they, after Diablo 3, I was kind of worried that they, even though I played 3 also quite a bit, and it was not that 3 was completely bad, but there were many aspects of 3 I didn't like, especially for me as a casual Diablo player. Like if the story is not that great and characters and so on, which is for most people not even that important. Some people don't follow the story, they just grind and want builds and farm powerful items and level up their character, which is totally fine. But for me, always, like, I like the atmosphere of the game always, and at least in the Diablo 1 and 2, I also followed the story a little bit. So when in 3 I didn't like it, it was kind of a letdown, if that makes sense. But yeah, we played Diablo here a bit on stream. You can find this VOD here on Twitch as saved as a highlight, or on the on the archive channel. You can watch this whole thing with me complaining about enemies. Well, I complain very little, I think, because it's a fairly decent game. It's not that difficult on this difficulty here. It's only World Tier 2. It will get more difficult, of course, on the higher stuff and so on. Don't get me wrong, but you can play this relaxed, easy, and chill. Play the story, kill a few mobs, and if you want more, you can also do that. There's some interesting mechanics. It feels kind of like a best of, but I assume like it's always like for me a bit, because I'm not that far into the game and only play it really slow and casually and so on. I can't really. What I read is that some people burn out of being interested in the game very fast when they reach the late game, because it becomes too repetitive and there's not enough to do there. There's not enough build variety, for example. At a certain point, some classes feel like they are not in a good spot or place. Like the sorceress, I heard she needs some help, because when you in late game or so, you die so fast that like most of your skills have to be defensive skills, so as you even survive the late game stuff, and then you have to focus like on 1 or 2 attack spells only, and you have this huge arsenal of awesome attack spells, but you can't use them because you are limited due to having to use so many defense stuff. And I guess that kind of makes sense for a sorceress, but yeah, it's a problem. I just wish I had a PC so I could play with you. Well, we could definitely do this as well, like make another viewer stream, but of course you would need a PC. I'm not sure if this has crossplay though. Street Fighter 6 though has crossplay, so you can play on console and can play against people on PC. So you can play PlayStation players, Xbox players, and PC players can play together on what's it game called? Street Fighter 6, which I'm also sometimes streaming here. But it needs a lot of focus and concentration, and also I need the right mindset for it, so I don't have always the power to play that here on stream. We're playing Kimberly there. I'm not sure if Diablo also has crossplay. What I heard though, and I know this, I started the sentence like I was on Gamescom 2012, and there they showed off, before it was released, the Diablo 3 for PlayStation or for consoles, the console release of Diablo 3. And I was surprised how well that worked. So it was pretty impressive to see. It was kind of cool to play this even before the game came out, because I was on Gamescom in that year. Maybe it was also Gamescom 2011, but I think it was 2012. Over 10 years ago. And then I noticed that Diablo actually is pretty good also on consoles. So it's not a pure PC game. In my perception, it is a PC game because Diablo 1 and 2 is what I played at least quite a bit back in the day. Over 20 years ago. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Let me just see. Does somebody in chat know Diablo 4 crossplay? Does this exist? Oh, it seems Diablo 4 is completely crossplay. Yes, according to... Let's put it here on screen, because I said I want to put stuff on screen when I talk about it. So let's do this really quick. Oh, Distortion is streaming. What's he playing? Last of Us. Potentially speedrunning that, right? Whatever. Reject all. Careful, bright screen. It says, yes, Diablo 4 crossplay is available on all platforms. That's PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So you can party up with other players as long as you are friends on Battle.net. You should easily be able to join each other through the in-game friend list. Stop that. Though you need to ensure that you're on the same Diablo 4 world tier first. Diablo 4 cross progression is also available, so you can carry your progress across multiple platforms as long as your Battle.net account is attached to them. To the characters you play. This means that you can easily move between PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One and Xbox Series S, but bear in mind that if you want to switch between PC and PlayStation and Xbox platforms, then you will need to purchase a version of the game on each system. Okay, so this version does not think. You can play on a PlayStation 4, that is true. Oh, Birchman, when I was writing, Birchman was contacting me during the stream. It's funny, he was also here a moment ago. So it is possible. But if you like games where you level up and grind, this is definitely a time thing. It's time sink. That's how I say it. Oh, here I die because I got stunned. Because I'm an idiot. That death made me sad. I remember that. I was not happy about this death. It was not well played by my side. Good that I don't play hardcore characters, else we would have to start from scratch again. But yeah, I was just absorbed in thought for a moment. Enough video here thing. Let us switch back to the screen. And I would suggest we play also some video games today. I announced Cyberpunk